Right, I'm just going to get started then. So we're going to look at add-ons and macros today. I found that there was quite a lot to talk about, so I've split this into two parts. I'm going to run another part probably next week. It's going to focus a little bit more on the macros. I didn't really get a chance to go into those, and I could do with spending a bit of time on those to give people some examples of useful macros. But basically just be covering some general add-ons that I've been using and some screenshots to support those. I've also covered a little bit as well on the, for anyone who's interested, the WoW Web API, which is bit more advanced for anyone who's interested in extracting information from the armory. So if you've seen websites like Wowhead or Ask Mr. Robot or even OpenRaid, they extract information from people's armory pages and they do that through the API. I'll show you an example of that, of how I've used that. It's not really needed for any sort of raiding purposes. It's just for if anyone's got a personal interest in that sort of thing and doing anything online, website based. So as I said, I'm really going to focus on add-ons today, and more so on macros next week. And I'll also look at a bit of sort of an introduction to programming, because essentially macros is pretty much just programming. It's just a short script that you can use, and add-ons are just an extension of that really. They're just a longer program, a bit more complicated using the LUA programming language, so that's why you usually just download them from authors. So add-ons, pretty useful really, generally used for game customization to make your life easier. As I said, they're built in a programming language called LUA, and if anybody is interested in that, you can just Google it. There are guides out there to sort of make your own add-ons, but generally speaking, most of the things are already out there that you might need. I'd also recommend using Curse, the Curse client as well, to help manage your add-ons. It's really easy, because it just if there's any updates available, you can just update it directly through that. Macros, they're just shorter scripts. They can only have 255 characters, but the benefit of that is you don't need to restart your client when you're writing macros. You can just change them on the fly, so it's sometimes useful at the beginning of a fight if you know you need to target something, or you might need to set up a focus macro or something like that. You can do that on the fly. And it just requires basic programming skills, and I'll go through some of that next week. But today I'm going to go through ELV UI, DBM, recount, and weak auras. There's also a link you'll see on the slide coming up in a second to the forum post where we've been adding useful add-ons to a list. So if you want to add anything to that, just reply to that forum post in the link you'll see in a second, and I will update the list. We can also talk about some additional add-ons if anybody would like to request I go through any next week whilst I'm doing the macros as well. So just get back to me after the workshop and let me know, and I'll see what I can do. Actually, out of interest, is there any add-ons that people would be interested in me going over that I haven't mentioned already? I guess not. It's very quiet today.
All listening.
Okay, so the next slide that you'll probably see is the LVUI config window. I just did a screenshot of that really, so you can see what LVUI does. It's a package, and it does loads of stuff. If you look down the left-hand side, it covers action bars, bags, buffs and debuffs, etc., etc. It even does some nice stuff, like on the general section. You can see there, like announcing interrupts in say, for example. That's just a quality of life improvement to help the raid know when you're interrupting stuff. Things like auto repair is pretty useful as well. Auto greed DE and vendor graze, just things like that. It's all got that built in, whereas in the past you might have had to have got add-ons to do that sort of thing for you. But I like to use LVUI just simply because it is a package and it includes all the stuff that you see there. As a default setup, it just works great, and then you can customize it further as you need to. So if you're looking for something that doesn't really require much configuration and is nice and easy to use, then I would recommend LVUI.
Do you prefer that one over things like Tuck and LUI?
I used to use TuckUI a while ago, but I haven't seen the latest TuckUI. I remember that it wasn't. LVUI tended to be a bit more sort of user friendly in terms of customizations, where TuckUI you could do more with it, but it didn't have such sort of nice menu systems. I don't know whether that's the same now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as what you said. I've used them all, and I prefer LVUI, and I've used it for years now.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, and what you can see in front of you now, this is just how the LVUI allows you to move your frames around. It's very nicely done. It's improved quite a lot over the years, and you can just you can have things like snapping to grids, so you can have things lined up nicely. And you can see in the middle there's a little nudge box which allows you to move things very, very slightly if you're a bit of a perfectionist and you want to line things up perfectly. But yep, so that allows you to do that. Move your raid frames. Pretty much everything you can see it covers there. It's got like arena frames, GM ticket frame. It's got everything. I know that there's other add-ons where it's a little bit more difficult, a bit more clunky to do that, but LVUI have just made it very, very easy now.
It's definitely the best one available.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably build something pretty awesome with a load of individual add-ons, but it's just going to take up a lot of memory, and it's taking a lot of configuration. So really, if you just want something nice and easy, LVUI. Who actually develops it? Because I think that they accept donations, don't they? I'm sure I donated to them because I found it very useful.
Yeah, they have their own website dedicated to TuckUI and LVUI. I can't remember what the company is though.
Well, I've always been very pleased with it anyway. Just got a screenshot there, just of my that's just of my Majors UI. You probably saw that the other week when I posted it. It just shows how LVUI shows up like nameplates and things like that, which I've shown you before. It's just quite nice. So just a quick example there.
Could I ask a question about nameplates? When, say, for instance, I was in the second part of Siege of Orgrimmar, when you go over the bridge and you kill packs of mobs, when I stood looking at them, they have red nameplates, but when I engage them, they actually turn green, so it can be a little bit confusing as to thinking that, I know they're not friendly, but why don't they stay red?
Because that's the threat component of the nameplates. When they're red, it means that you have got aggro on them as a DPS. When they turn green, it means you don't have aggro from them. So as the tank, it's completely the other way around. If I'm tanking and I see some that are red in colour, that means that somebody else has got aggro. I want them to show green when they've got aggro on me. So it's really just red as a warning.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Hey, Big.
Hello.
I had to go AFK. Did I miss the pie chart?
Yes. I did 4 pie charts.
God damn it! So good.
This is just this is something I wanted to show people, really, just like things on DBM, because I don't know whether people actually customize it and move their stuff around. So as you can see, their long timers are just to the side, so I can look up and over there if I need to know what's coming up in the next 10 plus seconds. And then when something's happening fairly soon, it'll pop up right in the middle underneath my character there. And then there's the main warning when something is happening, which is what you can see at the top of the screen there. Things like range radar as well. I mean, as a tank, I don't really look at that too often, but there are some fights where you do need to consider where how far away you are from people, so it's worth having that in a place that you can see. And then there's another thing, there's an info frame, which I don't know if people actually look at. Say for example on Shah of Pride, you will see people's pride levels, for example. So it's just quite handy from sort of a raid leader's point of view usually. The next screen you'll see is the options of how to actually move those around. Just find it's a lot easier. I think by default they're sort of stuck over to the right. I can't remember how it's done, but it's definitely worth putting them in a place where you can actually see them, so you don't miss something important. But yeah, that's just basically in the DBM options, which you'll see in a moment. And it just allows you to click move me, and then you can just drag it around wherever you want to put it, and then it will just remain there then. You can then use some test bars to see whether that's suitable. You don't have to be in a raid to do this, because there's all sorts of test options you can set. What other boss mods are there? I've forgotten what the other one's called.
Big wigs. VEM.
VEM is
VEM.
a really good add-on.
Yeah, I need to add that. I'm going to write that down. Go on, tell me about VEM.
See, the thing with VEM is, you see where you've got your raid finder there, your raid your range indicator, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having that, you could actually get rid of that so it doesn't clutter up your screen. And what will happen is, if an ability is, say, on yourself, where you're going to explode in, say, 10 seconds, anyone near you will die. What it'll do is it'll put a circle around. VEM will actually put a circle around your character in game and actually tell you to avoid you. So if you actually stand at you, it'll be in red and it'll be flashing and it'll be telling you to get out the way until it actually goes green. So you don't actually have to clutter up your screen too much. So that's one plus of it. It stops you cluttering a lot of stuff up. Like with the timers as well, it is nice to see the time, but in case you miss them, because I would say most new raiders, they don't really pay attention too much to the timers, and they're trying to concentrate on not dying. The audio warnings are a lot better because you don't have to, you don't have to look at the timers. It's just going to tell you when it's coming up. You know, it doesn't tell you it's now. It'll tell you it's coming up in 3, 2, 1, and tell you what to do. It's actually really good in that way.
Yeah, I know Dennis was recommending it, and a couple of people have been trying it since, so I'm going to have to look into that.
Shah of Pride is a really good example for how good that actual add-on is, because, you know, when people are in prisons, say you're working with all 4 prisons and someone's not standing on their marker, it actually has a big red line which ones aren't being stood on and which ones are, you've got to get to. So if you want to help out and your one's already been covered, you could blink over and jump on someone else's, and it tells you exactly which ones aren't getting covered at the time.
Because sometimes you can't see straight away, like the boss might be obscuring your vision or whatever, so you have to turn your screen around and then.
Yeah, and those that are playing with like a bit less graphics, which most people do these days for raid,